All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are for the first ever. Wow, this is the first
probably the last.
first and last kayak horror podcast. But when we got back from our Big Bend / Rio Grande paddle, we were going through the video. A lot of things, the video shows one thing, but there's a lot more under the surface there. So like when we were going through the video, editing it, putting it together, reviewing the footage, we kind of were thinking, I think it deserves a narration, something that, is like an addendum to the video, one would say.
Yeah, I guess just more like a discussion and like
not
every little thing needs to be in a YouTube video because it's already going to be pretty long.
Like a conversation about it will do it justice for some of the hardships and the things to prepare. And we were told no a lot and a lot of disappointments on this before the trip. So kind of like a user's guide to paddling the Rio Grande within Big Bend National Park, especially during low flow times. Like if you are interested in paddling this river, that's one thing that will pop up each and everywhere you go is low flow, summer heat. So I think it's just something that we wanted to do because we went at the lowest flow in the hottest summer heat. What was it?
115.
Where?
In the shade.
There we are. So I think you just wanted to kind of discuss that a little bit. Jumping back, I think, Big Bend's been on both of our lists for so long. And I guess not necessarily the Rio Grande, but, seeing the canyons that they have out there in Big Bend National Park really, spoke to us, especially being here in Louisiana. It's like, even though it's 20 hours away, it's one of the I guess more monumental rivers and areas that are close to us. And so we decided on Big Bend. Summer was the only time that worked for us with scheduling and stuff. And so one thing about Big Bend, if you don't know, it's in the desert in West Texas on the Mexican border. So we were like, you know what? This is our time. Next year, we don't know what that's going to hold. Let's just do it now. And so we started planning the trip. You look on the National Park website, and it's like, oh, floatable all year long, no issues. And so, I'd been having that in the back of my head for a couple months, a year or so.
Yeah, that you could run it any time.
Yeah, you can run it anytime. You can float it anytime.
What we thought.
And so, we planned the trip. Then, normally with these big kayaking trips, you plan, your overall, hey, what we're going to do? Yeah, we're going to float the Rio Grande one day, and then we're going to go to Terlingua one day, and then we're going to go to Austin or San Antonio. You have these big monumental ideas, and you don't really get down to the specifics until, I don't know, a month out. So we were getting about 2 weeks out. We had pretty much everything planned, locked and loaded. And we were finalizing the Rio Grande trip. We were going to go to, what was the canyon that we were going to do? Santa Elena Canyon. So the Santa Elena Canyon is the most popular canyon. And so that was like, hey, we're going to do this.
It was a Marisol Canyon.
Marisol Canyon.
That'll be
Marisol. So 2 weeks before, I'm calling around. There's 5 or 6 different outfitters in the area. Calling them, closed. Call this next one, closed. Call this next one, closed. Apparently everything's closed for the summer. Call the National Park Service just to get some. I'm like, Carrie and I were talking,
we're freaking out about it.
We're getting nervous. We're like, what's the point of going all the way?
Bend and for us, and not doing a kayak. Why we're not going to go to Big Bend and not kayak it. It's just kind of a wasted trip because it is pretty far, even for us.
Far, yeah.
And so it's we might not be able to do this trip, and that was our big summer trip. So we were kind of in a panic, honestly. Just like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. So we had the idea, hey, let's call the National Park Service and see if they can give us some advice. The National Park lady said, she said you can check out Boquillas Canyon. You can check out maybe what was
the
that?
one below it,
Hot Springs Canyon. So it was Boquillas Canyon, Hot Springs Canyon, which Rio Grande Village is between those two canyons. So she was like, or you can just go to Rio Grande Village and paddle around to say you did it.
Oh, yeah. Which, like, cool.
So I was like, what is this? Like, what is this nonsense?
We're going to get in the water. Woo, woo, woo.
So did some research on Boquillas, and it was actually, like, pretty phenomenal. It was like, oh, wow.
And you were first telling us that we were going to have to paddle upstream at some point. It was part of based off of the information from the ranger. You were like saying we're gonna have to
do a boomerang.
Yeah, which would require paddling upstream, and we're like, we don't know what kind of current, and like upstream for a few miles at least, like 7 miles or something. It wasn't like a little upstream. It was like a good bit of upstream. Yeah. Because I think was the idea we put in south of the canyon or whatever, or like at the end of the canyon, I guess, whatever that means, and then go up into the canyon, camp, and then come back down. So it's like. There's a lot of ifs in that. Like, what if we can't paddle hard enough against the stream? And then
there's a lot of unknowns.
That's hard. It's really hard to paddle against the current, even when there's minimal current. Like, it's just...
Yeah, it is. It was hard to paddle with the current on this one. So, we did some research. Boquillas Canyon was beautiful, and found out that the takeout point was at a place called Heath Canyon Ranch. About 12 miles south of Boquillas Canyon, and so it's a privately owned place. We went to their Facebook. They were like, didn't really have too much to say on the Facebook, but there wasn't like closed for the season, so that was positive. It's like, okay, well, they didn't have closed for the season. They were just, had a couple posts about their campground or whatever, and so called them. Super nice, super helpful people, and then. The guy, Russell, was like, yeah, for sure. Like, I actually enjoy paddling at this.
It's like my favorite time to paddle or something.
Yeah.
I guess it's just because there's less people or something, or I don't know.
I think, like, maybe the river becomes more, like, slow and scenic. It has more of the, like, the gives and the takes and not so much just, like, rushing down, I guess. I don't know. And he's like, I've shuttled a couple people this year at this float. One last weekend, one the weekend after you, like, you could do it. Like, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but, like, it's doable. And so we were like, bingo, let's go.
It was more mileage than we wanted to do as well, like 33 miles, but we were kind of like hoping to just stay one night on the river, so then you start playing the game of how much can I do in a day versus overdoing it also in the Texas desert summer heat with everybody.
That is true. And we didn't know what the circumstances would be at. You're on the Mexican border, 2 nights, like you said, the Texas heat. Mm-hmm. Like, how does that entail? The
dangers of overdoing it are high. I mean, people die of heat stroke and all of,
Yeah. And the canyon's only so long, 10 miles long or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, the majority of your paddle is like outside of the canyon, and it's like
that's just a separate ramble.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the gist of planning and like why we decided to do that canyon. It ended up working out.
It always does.
It always does. I mean, you always, you never really regret the ones that you do. I mean, one of the hardest trips we've ever done, and it was, probably one of the best trips we've ever done in the same word. So we drive, I don't know, how long do you think it was to get to Heath Canyon Ranch?
I think it was 2 hours from our hotel.
Yeah, so
no less than an hour, but I feel like it was an hour just to get to the road where you turned off the main road. Yeah. Then you had to go all the way.
Like 30 to 45 minutes on that road.
Exactly, so it had to be almost 2 hours, probably like an hour and 45 or something.
We get to Heath Canyon, and we are...
Well, like
at the border of Mexico.
Yeah, like the road just ends because it runs like into the Rio Grande, you know? So you're like driving and you're like,
like, makes sense because,
where are we? Like,
they shuttled us from the river.
I was starting to panic a little bit because I was like, okay, like, we should be there by now, but all I'm literally seeing is Mexico. Like,
I know.
It is kind of scary because you're just like, where are we right now? Like, it's gotta be the most remote place that, like,
it's gotta be the most remote place in the country.
Certainly that I've ever been to, but I feel like it's literally
the Heath Canyon has an airport, which find out is actually a pretty cool story. It was like Dow Chemical had a plant or a mining facility in Mexico, and that's where all the Dow supervisors and the engineers and geologists flew in to that airport, and then they would bus, I guess, across the bridge into Mexico. We get there, and Russell was the guy. I can't remember his mom's name. I don't think she ever said it. But she was going to shuttle us to Big Bend and bring our car back. So, I mean, it went fine. It was good. It was just long. It was, you know what I mean? Like, she gave us a lot of good history on
randomly enough, just to interject in here, like, they actually had power and stuff out there, but due to the storm the previous night, she had lost power. So, like, I think she was just sitting in her car for the AC because it was like 1,000 degrees.
It was so hot.
And I don't know.
Yeah, and they didn't, like, the bathrooms didn't work because there was no lights, was, like, no power flushing, generated. And I was like,
of course.
Oh.
Like, apparently there was just a really bad, like, heat lightning storm or whatever, and they lost power, so that was also kind of interesting. But anyway, so you were saying everything...
Yeah, everything went fine. I mean, it was just a long drive. It was like 2 hours, I swear, 2-hour ride.
And our whole car was packed with crap, and we didn't want her to have to sit with the crap, so she sat in my seat, and I had to sit in the back with a full-sized, like, storage box container full of all of our food and snacks, just, like, on my lap. Like, I had, like, my chin on it. I'm just, like, sitting there, like, for 2 hours, just, like...
And so we drive, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, maybe exaggeration, maybe an hour and a half.
In the car.
Yeah, we were talking. She was telling us some stories about history and whatnot. And then our first duty, I guess, was to go to the Panther Junction Visitor Center. So we get to Panther Junction, and of course, we got to go get our backpacking permit. And you know these national parks.
It's probably a river permit though for us, right? Or was it?
Yeah, it was like a
river use.
A river use permit or whatever. And of course, these people like probably have never done any outside activities in the park, and so they're like
hanging out.
They're like, "Why you can't do that? You can't do that!" And it's like, no, like, well, you don't have permission from Heath Canyon. It's like, yes, the woman's in the car.
She's in our cars.
And she's like, oh,
she's been in our car for 3 hours. Like, we're best friends.
Do you know how hot it is in the river? And we're like, I don't know, 110 degrees. And she's like, no.
She said, it's 1:15 in the shade.
And so, like,
and then she goes through, like, the entire, like, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have water? We're like, oh, plenty of it. Do you have salty snacks? We're like, we've got that, and we've got electrolyte powder. We're prepared for this. We've done a lot of kayaking. Like, we're ready. We have cooling towels. We have fans. Like, we really did have the house.
Yeah, we're prepared. I think we're at the point where everybody, you know, wants to hear about. It's the illustrious river put in, you know, the Rio Grande, the infamous, the, you know... Wild and scenic. You hear about it in every political rally known to man.
Yes.
This is the place. This is the border of America to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And this is the place where it was 115 degrees in the shade, and it was not shady out there, so... We pulled down, so we get there, and it's just a concrete ramp with a bunch of mud at the end of it.
It literally looked like a nasty old ditch.
Like, it did. At the beginning,
there was absolutely nothing mighty, wild, or... pretty wild, but nothing mighty or scenic about it. It was a like nasty old drainage ditch.
Yeah, it was like a low drainage ditch.
You just wouldn't believe.
Get the boats down, like, start pulling it out. Now it's a backpacking trip, so now you gotta, like, pack stuff strategically within the boat, like what goes where, what goes here, to maximize stuff. And I don't think we ever, like, a lot of times we'll do like some dry runs at the house, and we've done a couple dry runs on trip, and it worked fine. So like now, don't really do the dry run because I'm like, okay, I know I can get it all in the boat. I'm not gonna do a dry run. But the good thing about a dry run is that like what's where.
There was an audible, so thinking about this, it's kind of funny, but we were thinking about trying to bring a separate raft.
I forgot about that.
To bring more water. Because, like, that was more water than we ever brought, honestly.
More water.
And
generally, backpacking or on a river like that, we'd bring, like the filter system. Like, you bring the filter system, and you filter water out.
No, I wouldn't filter from a river. I don't know. We've never done that. That's not true.
Yeah, we filter on plenty of rivers. Mm-mm. Yeah, we filtered on Ruby Horse Thief, Current River.
We didn't.
Yes.
Did we?
Mm-hmm. Especially for stuff like cooking.
That water was brown.
I'm pretty sure we filtered.
I don't think so. I think we had jugs then. But it was
anyway.
Either way. The point is.
Yeah. So
and because we wanted to bring some drinks and stuff too, some other drinks. Yeah. So it was like, what, we need to bring a bigger cooler or whatever, or we just like need space for all these jugs of water.
All, like these like 5 jugs of water that we're bringing.
So
we had
the first idea was cooler tube.
Cooler tube, yeah, like you would do when you're tubing on a river. You tie a square tube to you, and you put your ice chest in there.
It's a decent idea.
It's a good idea. So that was the first thought. We're gonna get a cooler tube. We're gonna pull it behind the boat.
Yeah.
And we went looking for cooler tubes, and we couldn't find like your classic square tube with a hard bottom. Like they had some of those Inex like pre-made cooler floats where it's like the cooler.
The tube is the cooler.
The tube is the cooler.
Kind of. I mean, we thought about it, but
we thought about it. Yeah.
And then the other ones were just like mesh bottom.
Yeah, mesh bottoms, which we didn't want because like we used the mesh bottoms.
Yeah, we've literally used that before for tubing, and the mesh can tear, so it's not really a good system.
So we were in Walmart looking around, and it was like Brain Blast. It was like, what about these little like inflatable boats that you would have when you were a kid? Like they're like 4 or 5 foot long. You could put a person in. They come with the paddles. Like these little dinky little, like they're $20, $25 at Walmart. So I was like, ooh, let's get that. And that's what we'll put the jugs of water in. The cooler, like we'll have space. And so like we bought one of those. We were planning to use it, and like I don't know, once like the plan kind of comes together, and it's like you're thinking about it, and I was thinking about it, and like I was making myself nervous because I'm like, we're gonna be 33 miles on this river. Like, what if this thing's pulling me back like the whole time? Like, it's gonna be hard enough. It's gonna be slow. Like, what if I'm like strapped to this thing and it's harder than I think it is? Like, and that scared me. Like I did some research online, and like people had these same ideas, and some people were like, hey, yeah, I did it, like it worked fine, like paddled around, no issues. And some people were like, oh, this tore me up, like I couldn't do it. So
what?
So like that was the goal up until then, and like
you brought it,
and I brought
it to like,
and the decision was going to be, can we fit everything in the boats? Yes, we're not going to bring it. No, I guess we'll try it. In worst case, we'd have to deflate it and find space for it if it didn't work along the river. But we were able to get everything on the boat. I mean, it took a minute. It was hot. Oh, it was so hot.
In between like my legs and everything, I feel like the whole front of the boat was stuffed, and it came all up. Like, because I think I was sitting with the pots in between my legs, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was on your lap.
Yeah, it was like in between my legs, like in the boat.
Yeah, so we packed. I don't think this isn't on the video, but we packed everything, and there was one bag left, and it was our cooking gear, which is like the little pot. We got like one little pot, some Mountain House meals, a propane tank, and a little burner thing. And that was the one thing that boats were packed. We could not fit it anywhere else. So Keri had to ride with that between her legs for the first day.
It was awful.
But anyway, so we pack everything up. The boats are on the ramp, and we got video of this. That's what we were just watching. And we go to carry the first boat about 20 feet into the water, to the bank. And we lift up, and it's just like dead weight. Like, it is solid. It's probably 200 pounds.
The heaviest thing I've ever.
It is so heavy, and it was just like, oh my God, like I don't know, this boat only supports like 250 pounds, and I'm 250 pounds, plus like 100 pounds of gear, like, oh my God, like, what is it gonna do? And so, like, we kind of like moan and grunt and muscle the boat, I think I dragged it all the way down to the bank. Then we get to the bank, and it's just like...
It's disgusting.
Disgusting.
Mucky, like...
Muck.
The nastiest swamp mud you've ever seen. And I mean, like, we've seen it, like again, we're from Louisiana, so it's really not bad.
Yeah,
but it's still disgusting. Like, your foot, you're like...
Yeah.
You're like,
it's that mud.
Trying to get your foot out of, like... It's literally like quicksand. Like, I think it's the closest that, like, you could get to quicksand.
And it's that mud that, like, once you get your foot out of it, like, it won't come off your shoe.
Oh, yeah, and it's...
Like, you would need, like...
Yeah, and it's absolutely disgusting.
A brush to get...
It smells like a sewage plant. Like, it's
all the mud
disgusting.
off your shoe.
Like cow manure, or I don't know what it was, but it literally stank. I was just like, is it going to smell like this the whole time?
Oh, disgusting. Yeah, it was like, because it was hot, it was stagnant, like,
oh.
There was, like, flies, there was bugs, like, there was no wind.
Like, I feel like we got a little off track, but, like, where you were going with the whole, it takes a while to pack up thing, and I think what you were trying to say is what you hate is that the person who shuttled your vehicle is just, like, sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah.
So picture an elderly-ish woman standing in the shade.
In the hot sun.
115 degrees.
Degree hot sun.
Yep, 115 degrees. Waiting for us to unload our shit, and we're like, I'm so sorry. She's like, it's okay.
It's like, hey, you can sit in the truck, and it's like, no, I'm good here. And
yeah, it's like she's just standing there. But then at the same, so it's like, you just feel bad because you're like trying to hurry, but you're like, this is my lifeline. So if I forget something, like,
yeah, we're screwed.
You know, this is important. So you do have to take it seriously, even if it takes time, and it does take time, and it's very annoying. But then too, also this is rando people who are in the park want to see the Rio Grande.
Yeah.
So we're the only people unloading kayaks.
They want to see a couple of idiots going 2 nights on someplace that they wouldn't even dare step out to.
They barely got out of the car. There was just one little family, like, super cute, whatever. But they get out, like, the kids, like, probably, like, 12, 14 or something. He's got, like, the hot Takis. He's just like, what are they doing? Like, just spectating like it was a sport, you know, a good entertainment for them. And, like, the dad's coming over there talking. He's like, oh, you take it out or you put it in? We're like, oh, no, this is just beginning. Like, we're putting it in. He's like, oh, where are you going? How far are you going? We're like, 33 miles. Like, woo! Oh. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. So, like, then he's just, like, having a conversation because this is, like, the most interesting thing they've seen in the park all day, probably. I mean.
Yes.
It's so you're just, like, fielding conversations while you're, like, packing up, and you're like, all right, I know, like, you guys wanted to see the Rio Grande, but, like, it's really not that mighty right here. And, like,
yeah, this is not.
This is not. People just like, I want to go see the Rio Grande. Look, honey, look at the mighty Rio Grande. Look at that, it's Mexico, and, like, it looks exactly like the side that you're on. Like, it's just densely, like, brush. You know, on dense brush on both sides, stinky as all get out. So people are like, we've seen it, you guys. We've seen the Rio Grande. It's magical. Yeah. You know, so
it's like, yeah, you have an audience. And another side note. So I go to pull the truck up. So we're on like a boat ramp. Okay.
I forgot about this.
And if you know anything about Jeeps have a safety feature where when the doors open, it won't like move. It won't go in the drive. And so it'll go in the drive, but it won't, like, the gears won't move. So I'm there. There's like 5 or 6 people around just watching, and I'm pulling the Jeep up so the lady doesn't have to pull it up the ramp, you know. So I get in it, doors cracked a little bit, you know. I'm just like, you know, just jumping in, door open, and I'm just gonna pull it up, put it in drive. doesn't go.
It's so embarrassing. There's like the family still watching. There's like,
and I'm like, what the heck?
An audience.
Close the door. Don't go. Don't go. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like,
if this Jeep breaks down on this landing,
and
like,
so
we're in.
Turn the car off, turn it back on, put it in drive, and it goes. And it's just like, and it's happened to me before, but like, I don't know. It's just like right now in front of everybody. Like, I'm like, I'm like hot. I'm stressed. We just finished packing everything. It was a bee to get everything in. Like, we're trying to get on the river. This is the hardest part. Like, this is the hardest part of the trip. Because, like, getting started, it's so hard to just get started. It's like, you just got to get going and find your way. And so, yeah, that was another thing. But
a lot of little.
Fast forward, we fight the muck. We get on the river. And it's just tough. It was just a tough put-in. That was like probably one of our toughest put-ins. Okay, so we are we've taken off at this point. So this is we've taken off. We're going down the river, and I think for me a big part of this first section is just like pretty brutal. Like, there's really nothing to look at. You're in, like, kind of crap desert, like, bushes. The water's pretty flat. There's no shade.
It smelled like sewage.
It smelled bad.
There was so much manure floating in the river with us. Like, so much poop from cattle.
Yeah. So that's another thing.
I didn't realize it was poop for a while. I was like, what is all this, like, in the river? But then eventually I was like, oh my gosh, this is just poop everywhere. We're just floating in poop.
Every 100 yards, call it every football field, you'd have a horse and a baby. You'd have two horses, a mama and a baby, or you would have a group of cattle, or you would have
a group of horses.
A group of horses. Like, every 100 yards, there was livestock in the river drinking whatever. Like, they weren't bothersome, but like they were just there. And like, my thing is that like I never knew when one of the animals might do something, and I think, oh my god, it's a horse, it's a cow, like they're not gonna do anything to you, that's ridiculous. But like, you don't know what these wild animals. These are basically wild animals. The male bull is like, sees the color red on my kayak or your big old nose or something like that, and he gets angry. I don't know what he's thinking. Even in the canyon.
I thought the animals were cool. I mean, like, I'm not saying that like you shouldn't have like a healthy skepticism, but I just thought seeing like wild horses was just
the
really
horses were
beautiful.
Yeah.
You've never seen anything like that. It's like a painting. Like, every single time they were in the water, just like grazing, getting a sip. It was just like, wow, this feels like a movie, like a painting or something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, they were extremely picturesque, and like the photos that we did take on the river, I mean, they revolved around that wild horses. Wild horses. Is that a song? Maybe. I don't know.
White horses. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a song about wild horses.
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Probably. Anyway, so the first part was like, but I mean, the thing with the first part, even though it was like pretty brutal, it was like we were fresh. We had fresh legs. We were pushing into the canyon, and we were pushing to do as many miles as possible. So like, I think that's something that we haven't brought up yet, but typically this section of the river, 33 miles, is done 2 nights, 3 days, 2 nights. 3 days on the river, 2 nights on the river. Typical. I think most people probably paddle a mile or two into the canyon, camp, paddle to the end of the canyon, camp, finish it out. Well, I mean, this was our vacation, so like we didn't want to like take 3 days on the Rio Grande. Like if we took 3 days on the Rio Grande, then that meant we couldn't do
a day elsewhere.
The rest of the park. We couldn't do Terlingua. It was like crunch, crunch, crunch.
And we had this cute like glamping little triangle
like a
thing.
teepee in Terlingua.
And we would have missed that if we had spent another night on
which
the
ended
river.
up being like one of the best nights.
And that I was most looking forward to that. I was so excited about that. We've never glamped, and it was just like so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like Pinteresty, you know. And I was like, we can't not do that.
Yeah, so that was like that was one of the first things that we booked on the trip. Anyway, we'll backtrack on that later, but like, so like I guess with that in mind, we had to do, 33 miles, call it divided by 2, what is that, 16 and a half. Like, we didn't get started, like we left the hotel at like 6 a.m. that morning. We didn't get on the river till like noon
or something like that. But that's how long it did all of the driving.
Yeah, that's how long everything took.
Like, we really didn't buffet around.
That was the thing. Like, so it's like we get on at noon. Now we're expected to do either 16 miles today or we got to do 20 plus tomorrow. And so like, there was some serious paddling going on. Like,
we never stopped paddling.
We never stopped paddling from here on. But like, so that was like, we're on fresh legs. It's like, let's get into the canyon. Let's get there. Like, once we can get into the canyon, like, then let's start enjoying ourselves and do that. And like, we were enjoying ourselves, but it was just like a kind of a stagnant paddle at this point. Like, there was some water movement, low water movement, and whatnot. But like, this was by far the worst part of the river that we did. We're in the canyon, and like it's smooth. Like we're good. The worst part that's to discuss, and like maybe the whole trip, is the low water and the drag in the bottom. And like, as we talked about earlier, like, my boat is heavy. My boat is weighted down. Like,
mine was too.
So there's like a lot of points where like we're going through the river, and like generally I'm like, I'll make it through this with no issue. I'm getting stuck. And like,
yeah, I find that frustrating because like I don't normally get like stuck on things in my boat, but I was getting stuck too, and I don't like that. I get super angry. I'm like, oh, why?
Yeah, it takes it out of you. It's like you're going. It's like there's a rapid coming up, and like generally that's where you get that boost. That's where you get that speed boost. That like Mario Kart turbo, and you keep going flying. But in this situation, every time we would hear the rapid come up, it's like there's a little piece of you that like dies inside because you're like, oh,
might be too shallow.
Now I'm gonna have to like push myself, and like we really like only had to walk less than five times. I don't know. I lost count at the end, but
yeah, I think it was more than that.
Call it 5 to 10 times. The back half, there were some places that like whatever. Call it 10 times in the whole 32 miles, and.
Which we knew it was going to be.
Which we knew that's how it was going to be.
For the
majority, like, let's say if we had to walk 10 times, like, I had to push myself with my arms probably 50 times. And that's the hard part. That takes it out of you.
Yeah, like I would like fork my paddle, like jam it into the ground and like try to shove myself, and you're like really like working all of those muscles you've already been working and more, and exerting yourself to get dislodged off of whatever rock or
the rock,
bottom
and then it's
that
like
you're caught on.
You dislodge off of, you're stuck on this rock, you dislodge, and then you hit another rock.
Exactly, there were times where I had ping pong rocks that I was...
Yeah, you ping pong.
And
I was
like,
the definition of
screw this, I'm getting
pong.
out, like...
It was tough. It was hard. Like, and the moment that sticks out for me more than anything is it was about an hour. It was not even an hour. It was probably like, call it 20 minutes before we stopped. So it's probably what time?
We weren't gonna stop. We were gonna push for another hour.
No,
it's like 6 o'clock. Maybe?
Yeah, maybe 6,
and I think
6:30.
the idea was try to make it till 7 or something.
Yeah.
And I remember you said like you think you got like 45 minutes left in you or something, like an hour left in you. I don't remember what it was.
It was 45 minutes.
Like, yeah, for sure. And like not 5 minutes later, you're like, I'm done.
It's like I'm like, you think you got 45 minutes left in you, and it's like, yeah, like
in me.
Like we can push. There's still like probably like 2 hours of daylight left.
Yeah, we're trying to make some time here.
Let's get an hour down the road. Let's stop, and then that way we have an hour to set up camp, eat, and then it's getting dark, and then we can go to sleep. So I'm like, you got 45 minutes left in you. Probably 5 minutes later, we come around a bend. You know, there's a little rapid. This is the point. Like, so I've been splitting my paddles apart and like almost using it as like a ski pole at this point to get through the rocks. It was working phenomenally. And so I split my I think maybe the rapid before I split my paddles across and I'm ski poling it, and then like I put them back together too fast without washing all the silt and sand out of it, and so they got like interlocked together. So like we're coming to the next rapid. I get stuck because that's like kind of how it was going. And I'm trying to pull the paddle away, and I couldn't get the paddle apart. And so like I'm like giving it everything I can, like trying to get the paddle apart. It's not coming apart, so I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm exhausted. Paddle's not coming apart. I'm just dead, and I'm frustrated, and I'm getting annoyed. So I have to push myself through the rapid, of course, and wasn't the small. It was long, maybe 10, 20 feet. I get on the other side, and I just don't think I have anything left in me. My tank is empty, and we come across, and there's this big like beach, and I'm like, I'm done. Cut the tape. I'm going home. It's over. Literally how I was feeling. Heat exhaustion. In my head, I'm like, okay, there's this huge beach right here. When's there going to be another one? If we keep going another 30 minutes, is there going to be another one? Is it because it was a really nice.
It was huge.
It was huge.
It was very nice. It like was in like a bowl as far as like the canyon. Like there was just like 360.
Yeah,
beautiful view.
A big wide open bowl in that area. I gotta stop here. We stop, and I'm having like a heat stroke. Bad.
We found this tiny little bit of shade from a small little tree.
Like 50 yards away.
On the beach, yeah. And we just like walked and laid out our little like camping pads and like laid under the tree, just like.
I think I just passed out for like 30 minutes. I think you were reading.
I was reading.
So after about an hour, we're laying there. Sun starts going behind the canyon, the shade's getting bigger. We're like, hey, let's go and set up the tent and start cooking. So yeah, we set up the tent. I'm a big fan of we're sleeping in it. That tent's not gonna fly away. On that one I actually put one stake. Normally I don't put any stakes because I'm like, we got stuff in the tent. It's not going to fly away. I'm not worried about staking it. Like, some people stake their tents down 17 times. Like, I don't really do that. Like, I find it's kind of unnecessary. But in that situation, wind's blowing a little bit. I'll put one stake in it, and it'll hold it. So I put the tent, we put the tent up, put a stake in it. We go, for some reason, I don't know why, our tent was set up about 30 feet from the boats. I feel like...
I don't know, we thought it was just a little, like...
It was just flat. Like,
more flat or something.
Like, the rocks had been moved out of the way. I don't know if someone had used that as a tent pad before. Cause it was a little flatter. There were, like, rocks were kind of cleared out a little bit. It was just a little bit better of a spot. Yeah. We didn't feel like moving the boats, obviously. And so... But we were at the boats. I'm still, like, even though I've napped and I'm feeling better, it's still, like, I'm still tired. I'm still exhausted. I'm on the teeter of being frustrated just from like the exhaustion. I'm cooking food, and we're doing the mountain house meal. So I got like a pot of water boiling, and first pot spills. I don't know how it spilled, but it spilled. And so it's like, Jesus Christ. So I got to start over with the process. Do it again. And then that's when like my back's turned, Carrie's facing the tent. All of a sudden, tent starts blowing away.
If it wasn't like, scary that we were gonna lose our tent, it would have been hilarious. It is hilarious, like thinking about it, because it just full send, like this. I don't even know how to describe it.
It was like Simone Biles on the flat work, on the what's it called?
On the floor.
It was like Simone Biles on the floor.
I described it as cartwheeling. I said the tent went cartwheeling away from us because it literally was like boom, 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 boom. It was doing full somersaults in the air, carried by the wind, just again and again and again, like the world's best gymnast. Like if a gymnast just could keep going 10 flips in a row, we're just like, there goes the tent.
Yeah.
So then I don't even have my shoes on. I put my Crocs on and go running down the beach. As I'm running, it's somersaulting. It's going. It just keeps going. I'm like, we're never going to catch this thing. And it started off on the bank, which was a little bit elevated above the water. And it tumbled down over the bank, pretty much in the water. Like, I don't know how it didn't really go in the water.
I don't know. It
it almost
did. Was probably like a foot from the water.
I don't know how it didn't. And I thought
this was
going to go full in the water and it's going to be carried down the rapids.
This was 50, 60 feet away from where it was staked down.
Yeah.
It somersaulted down the beach. It wasn't it just went 10 feet into the water. It was going. Keried jumped up first, ran, and then I jumped up second, spilled the next pot of water, might I add.
I don't think I knew that. I don't know.
Of food cooking, that spilled. And I'm like, there's a GoPro over there, 5 feet from me. And I'm like, I can grab the GoPro and film. But in my head, I'm like, that's not important right now. I really thought that the tent was going to be halfway in the canal. My first thought was, should I get the kayak and literally put the kayak in the water to go retrieve the tent? That's why I'm like, shoot, I might need to go get the kayak to go retrieve the tent. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not filming.
But it was disappointing because I feel like the best things are never on video. And it's impossible to explain the way that this tent was just literally somersaulting through the air nonstop, and I'm running at my record-breaking speed, also an Olympian, just like the tent.
Yes.
Two Olympians, me and this tent.
Yeah, Simone Biles and Sha'Carri Richardson over
there. Exactly. I'm breaking world
and I'm
records.
Ray Gunn from the Australian team, just...
Kangaroo hopping.
Just freaking bunny hopping background.
Bop before your money. By some miracle, it just stopped. It went flying and flying and flying and flying, and I swear this thing was the top.
Yeah,
it was on its floor.
It was like Simone Biles on the floor.
I described it as cartwheeling. I said the tent went cartwheeling away from us because it literally was like boom, 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 boom. It was doing full somersaults in the air, carried by the wind, just again and again and again, like the world's best gymnast. Like if a gymnast just could keep going 10 flips in a row, we're just like, there goes the tent.
Yeah.
So then I don't even have my shoes on. I put my Crocs on and go running down the beach. As I'm running, it's somersaulting. It's going. It just keeps going. I'm like, we're never going to catch this thing. And it started off on the bank, which was a little bit elevated above the water. And it tumbled down over the bank, pretty much inside. And the base of the tent was facing us, and the dome, the top of it or whatever, was tip in the water. Like, I swear, that's what it looked like. And I thought, there it goes. And it just stopped, on its side, at the edge of the water, and I was able to continue my world-breaking run and go grab it. But I've never run that fast in my life. But in any case, I don't know, it was just pretty weird because it showed no intent of stopping, and then it was stuck the landing
at the water line, 10. And it was
and I was able to get it without getting in the water, which I assumed that was not going to be possible.
Wrangled that thing back in and
carry
around it back in. I finally caught up. I was at slower Olympic speed.
Oh, you didn't catch up. You didn't make it to where I was at. A football field down the beach.
Yeah,
it was a huge beach.
Because we were at least 30 to 50 feet from the tent, and the tent went at least 30 to 50. More than 50 feet, I would say, past. So, Yeah, I mean, it was a solid ways.
It was a 100-yard dash, for real.
It was far. Maybe it was even further than what I'm
Crocs.
saying. Yeah, in Crocs, yeah. So, yeah, like, so we got the tent back. I put 4 steaks in it. I think I put, like, some weight in it, too, like the cooler and stuff like that.
Which I guess we should have done from the start.
So we went to sleep. If you know anything about Big Bend, the stars are the show. It's the darkest part of the country. Yeah. This is why you come here, is for the stars.
Literally.
We had researched, months prior. It was going to be a full moon while we're going to be there, which kind of stunk.
That always happens.
It always happens. Like, the sky's not going to be as nice and stuff like that. When we went to sleep, it was dark outside, but the moon was brightening the whole sky.
I feel like it just wasn't that dark,
Yeah, and like...
part of that has to do with how late that it stays light.
Yeah, it stays light till like...
It was kind of bright. Like, I don't know, like I could still see the canyon walls very well.
So we go to sleep, kind of not disappointed, but like we go to sleep, and then like at 4 a.m, I wake up and I can see just stars. It's just nothing but stars out there. And so woke Carrie up, and like we had a nice, 25 minutes. We opened up the tent. We were just watching. You could see the galaxy. Like,
it was awesome.
We never seen stars like that.
Like, I wish you could see it more. Like, I just wish you weren't so like that didn't happen so late. No one's so tired.
Yeah,
it's like oh, I'd love to pull out a chair and just sit out there and like look at it. You could see shooting stars.
Yeah, like we saw a bunch of numbers of shooting stars.
Just like constant shooting stars.
Yeah, it is. It's really like constant
shooting stars. Galaxy and like so many constellations that like I don't know what they are, but like just so many.
You can tell, like you can tell. You can look at something and be like, oh, that's a constellation. 100%. Like maybe you don't know what it is.
Like it, and it was over the canyon walls. Like again, extremely picturesque and like. You can't. I mean, I couldn't imagine a better way to see the stars than over the ridge.
We camp. We wake up. Figured we went about 10 to 11 miles. There's a dilemma here because we know we're looking at 20 plus miles. In 6 hours or 5 hours, we were doing 2 miles an hour, and now we need to do 20 plus miles, and that means like we have to pack up the boats. We have to get on the river. Like, we're hoping that it's not worse than it was before with dragging in low water. And then we have to get off the river, pack up the boats. That's a lot of time. And, like, you're thinking at least 10 hours of paddling. That's a long day of paddling. Yeah. Just continuously paddling in 100-degree heat. Once we leave the canyon, we have to finish
it. Yeah.
It's 12 miles from the end of the canyon to the Heath Canyon Ranch, to the Takeout. So it's like, once we leave Boquillas Canyon, we have to finish. We sleep later than expected, and we don't get on the river till 8:39. Mm-hmm. We just gotta go. There was no other options. We had brought some like Celsius powders, and if you don't know what that is,
be like a more
healthier energy drink.
I'm not saying I believe that, but
we each drank a Celsius powder. We get going. I mean, we were fighting. We were fighting to get there, and it was great. I mean, like inside the canyon was beautiful. It was phenomenal. It was. I mean, easy's a strong word,
I feel
but
like we were in like good spirits. Like we had a rest, overnight, and like this we got to see the stars, so we were happy about that, and like just. I think also just the idea of getting like real food for dinner that night, like you're
like a bed with air conditioning.
I would paddle forever.
And like that's what pushes you along. Yes, we have 20 miles to go, but there's a pot of gold at the end of this river. We're good, and we actually made really good time. I remember we set a goal. We said if we can get out the canyon by 3, then that would put 12 miles, 6 hours to get to the car.
And we cleared it by like 1.
We got out by 1.
I was like, wow, we got out way faster.
We were like, let's freaking go. And after that, we just pushed. Our concern was that the back half of the canyon was going to be horrible like the front half, but it really wasn't.
The canyon detoxified the water. Like, it was like the water went in one thing and came out another thing. Like, came out pure.
Honestly, was pretty decent up until like
to the very
about
end,
like 2 miles
the
to
bitter
the
end. It's always like that, though.
Yeah, it is. It's like those you push so hard in those last 2 miles. You're like, we gotta be here.
Yeah,
we gotta be close.
I was again holding it together better than you.
But I was dragging more. So Keried's in the front. Keried gets through fine. The bottom of your boat might hit the rock or whatever, but I get through and I get stuck. And then I fight. My paddle's still stuck at this point. Take that in mind. So now I'm pushing with a paddle in a hand, and I hurt my finger at one point, but so I pushed through and then stuck again. I'm literally fighting the whole rapid at this point from, call it 15 feet to get to the bottom. Now this whole time, Keried's hanging out at the bottom. She got through. She didn't have to push. She's at the bottom and just sitting there. And so now I get through. And, you get through, and then now the water's kind of like still again. So I'm paddling like hell to catch up, and then we go together. At every rapid, you're having a break. I'm exerting 3 times the energy. Yeah, like that one towards the end, like I was the one that was weaker, but also I put forth a lot more effort.
Is anyone detecting a common theme here?
We're probably a mile and a half from the end.
Moses in the canyon.
We were close. We were close to the end. This was like one of those ones, every turn it was, is that Lalinda?
Yes.
Like, is that Lalinda Bridge?
Yes.
I'm getting exhausted at this point. Like, day one. Like,
You're burnt, you're angry.
I'm burnt, I'm fed up.
I guess so. I didn't remember exactly, but he's like out of his boat, pulling the boat, towel on his head, like under the safari hat, big canyon wall on the side, like paddle just up, like he's just like leading the sea.
So I get to this one.
I was definitely football field ahead on
Keried's way ahead. Like I said, she scooped by, no issues.
I did.
So I get to this one, and this is a long stretch. This is a long stretch of rocks.
Because I was dragging for this whole stretch, and I'm like, he'll never make it. Like he just needs to get out.
This is a long stretch of rock. If it was too long, I'd just get out and walk the boat. It was just easier that way. So I got stuck right away. And I'm pulling the boat. I pulled it for 20 feet or whatever. Yeah. And then right against the canyon wall, it was like it was a path. It was a channel.
Kind of. But I was trying to tell you, just stay out of the boat. That was if I could have, I wasn't that close to you, but I was trying to be you should just stay out of the boat. It's going to get shallow again.
I'm in the channel again. I get in. I paddle 5 feet. Boop. Stuck. And I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Push, stuck. It's been some time at this. I'm probably been in this rapid for 5 or 10 minutes. So yes. I have to get out the boat again.
I'm so bored waiting.
Pull it 50 feet at this point. This is a long one. I was over it at that point.
Yeah, I feel like I was the only positive energy in the room.
We started at 9 in the morning. It's 7 o'clock. We have not stopped to paddle. We did not get out for lunch.
No.
We did not take any break. We never really got out the boat to do anything but use the restroom all day. It's 7 o'clock. Sun's going down.
No lunch, no breakfast.
Only some snacks in the boat and stuff like that.
I think we had some little breads or something that we were eating.
Yeah.
Bagels,
yeah. We're at the cusp, and it's just, where is this frickin' bridge? Every 20 minutes, I'm pulling out my phone it's almost here.
Are we there yet?
So we finally see it. Woo! We're there. We are there. And the takeout
I forgot about this part.
The takeout is right on the other side of the bridge. It was the greatest feeling ever. It doesn't matter,
yeah, because we're here.
In
my head, there's not one more thing we need to do, except load up the car, which is going to be a bitch.
Yeah, the car's going to be a bitch, but once we load it up,
that was the last hurdle.
It doesn't matter. Usually we just throw everything in, strap the boats on, and we're going. And so we walked, so we were all right, let's go get the car. It's probably just around... right there, around the dune, where we can't see.
Right.
So we get walking, not around the dune.
Yeah. We're like going uphill too, up some like little gravel road.
Yeah, we're at this point we're up a road.
We found a gravel road.
Yeah,
it sounds so sketchy when I'm saying out loud. Like we found a gravel road and we just started walking.
And we like so we're walking. You know, it's like okay, well, it's not around the dune. Like maybe she just put it up at the gate. The house was on one side of the highway, and then by the highway, like where the bridge was. The house was on one side, and they owned the property on the other side where the takeout was, and there was a gate with a lock that you had to go get a key. All right, well, maybe she just parked it at the gate. And so we get to the gate.
Well, I mean, but mind you, like, this was like a mile.
This was a mile.
Uphill. Because, like, the river's, like, down, and, like, they're up. So we're, like, winding and winding. Yeah, like, where's this car gonna be?
We're walking on this, like, road for 20 minutes.
Before we get to the gate. But at this point, we're just like, okay, it has to be outside.
We get to the gate, and once we get to the gate, car's not there, but we could see her house another 3/4 of a mile away, and we could see the truck. They were like son of a gun.
Sitting underneath the Texas flag, flapping in the wind.
Yeah, like, so we're like, we could literally have to walk that whole distance to get the truck. So we walk like a mile and a half.
We left these boats 2 miles downhill from us, I swear. On the most tired, like, exhausted bodies we have ever had. Like, I can't believe I thought it was over. And then the walking, you're just like...
When we were leaving, we passed her and we, like, talked to her for a bit, and, you know... She was making checking.
Yeah, like I felt good about the fact that like she knew our timeline.
Yeah, she knew that we were out there and when we were going to be expected back.
And we were like,
Yeah, so really shout out. They definitely made
it happen. Possible. Honestly, yeah, because like it was all like red.
It was all going down until they said
because there were no shuttle services, so we weren't going to be able to do it. But we were able to do it, and
we did it, and it was a success.
This is our story.
And it was, definitely, if you're up to it, I definitely recommend doing it. And if you got any other questions, or if you want to know some specifics, I don't know, comment, reach out, follow Kayak Horror online. We got merch for sale.
Shout out to
have hats, though.
Cactus Jack. Placed here for this little deserty video and the little yee action we got going on here.
And the dogs, Buddy and Bandit, for guest appearances.
Guest appearances being such good sports. Yeah. I don't know if they actually were good sports, but I'm gonna give them the credit because they're hanging out with us and listening to us run our mouths all day. So
we're hoping to like maybe do some of these. Like this is the first one. Hoping to maybe do some of these in the future for like. Different stuff, different trips, or
what if we could get on the comedy podcast? I mean, I don't know
it's not like comedy though.
We
could do comedy, but like
to market us. We're gonna break into some different markets.
Yeah, we're gonna do some different stuff. I feel like that's the vibe. You know, we got the Getting Carried Away YouTube channel and the Kayak Horror Kayak Club Instagram page. Peace. Hope you enjoy.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.